Several people have sent in a question about a recent interview Randy Orton did on the Ringer Wrestling Show about his Bray Wyatt feud. Did you see any of these?
I didn't know that the Ringer was a thing. I have not seen. I didn't know they let the guys talk now. I guess Randy does what he wants.
Well, here's a quote from Randy Orton, apparently. Rolling with the punches is something that I realized, more recently than not, if I just accept that I'm out of control of some of these situations, and I'm talking about the business right now, if I just take what they give me and do the best of my ability, I was doing Fiend stuff. None of this makes any sense. I was doing Fiend stuff a year ago. That was hard. Some of that was rough. They put me in the burn mask 1 week, and the next week I'm out of it, and my skin healed. It's tough. Then you go to who you would imagine you go to when you have a gripe, and go, hey, I can't do this. Aren't they gonna, and he does a Vince impression, it says here, just do it. It's gonna work. Okay, roll with the punches. You go out there and you do your best job. Even though I'm lighting a dead guy on fire and he's the babyface, I had a very hard time trying to make that real, but I feel like I did a good enough job to where even though it was a little cringeworthy for some people, because I really tried to believe I was going through this, I think it helped people buy into it a little bit more while we were suspending that reality and trying to make them believe like they would if they were watching the most recent Halloween movie. They want to believe and be entertained. So, the more I can accept that and make it real and make it something that I'm feeling and not just words that some 22-year-old writer wrote on paper for me, if I believe it and make it mine, I can get them to believe. That's what kind of changed with my promos. So, Jim, what are your thoughts on a lot here? Randy Orton's thoughts on the Fiend feud, and it started with, here are my frustrations, and by the end of it, it was just Stockholm Syndrome. Whatever they say, I'm okay.
Well, no.
Roll with the punches.
At the end, whatever some 22-year-old writer writes down for me, he's not Stockholming. He's still trying to get the fucking point across, but he's trying to be diplomatic as possible since they pay him 7 figures a year. I mean, you know, I feel bad for him because he knows he knows what sucks and he knows why it sucks. And that's what he's saying. I can't beat myself up about it anymore. I can't do anything about it. The stuff that I can't control for that much money. And he's closer to the end of his career than he is the beginning. He's just, you know, and if they don't give a fuck about their own company, why should he? All those things that I always used to say to myself and still couldn't talk myself in and not saying, you dumb motherfuckers, what are you fucking doing? But Randy knows. He grew up in the wrestling business, around the wrestling business, being involved with his father and grandfather who spent their lives in the wrestling business. He went to OVW, was there for a couple of years, which was not only the last place that taught the traditional wrestling values, but was also more detailed about those traditional wrestling values than probably any other training program even of that time. So he knows all the things that's wrong. He knows it's gaga and horse shit. He knows that it makes no sense. He knows that the baby face was the dead body that was being burned alive because he's a creature from a demon-possessed whatever the fuck, right? And he knows that his skin didn't regenerate under the burn mask in 12 days or whatever. But you'll do what I did. You'll either give yourself lifelong acid reflux or potentially have to hire an attorney or come to the point where you just scream at everybody that you hope they all fucking drop over and burst into flames and go home if you can't just not let it bother you. And I guess he's figured, what the fuck? For the money I get for what I've got to do and how much longer I've got left to do it, he's not going to save the wrestling business. Why fucking try? But he knows exactly what's wrong and what's right, what to do and what not to do. That's why he's one of the smartest workers in the ring over the last 10, 20 years, whatever.
Are you surprised by what he's saying Vince's reaction to him would be, considering who he is and how long he's been there?
No. Maybe just a little bit more abrupt. You know, I would think it, and maybe honestly, it probably was that Vince first tried to talk to him and finally said, "Oh, just do it, pal. It'll be fine. It's good shit." But no, I mean, they remember when I don't know who was behind the idea of we're going to pour a can of gasoline over this guy and supposedly set him on fire in the middle of the fucking ring. I don't know whether that was Vince or that was one of the writers and he went with it, whatever the fuck. But when Vince has something he wants to do, and he really wants to do it, and he doesn't want to be talked out of it, I mean, Steve Austin walked out and went home one time. And, you know, a lot of guys have had to finally say either they do it or fuck you, I'm leaving. And they did. So and if Randy wasn't sufficiently offended by the stuff to say, fuck it, I'm leaving, then he's going to have to do it. So, you know, what the fuck?